We're going to begin the town meeting. People, please have a seat. I would ask the people coming in that are still getting their voter cards there to vote to proceed through and find a seat also. This is freaking awesome. This is great. I was concerned about not getting a quorum. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you. It's your right, you're exercising right now, and God bless every one of you for coming out here and doing that. It's fantastic. I love seeing a lot of people out here. Everyone's voice can be heard that way. All right, so let's get things rolling. Go through the usual stuff. Good evening, and welcome to the annual Springtown meeting, May 4th, 2023. A quorum being more than present, the meeting will come to order. The return of the warrant shows that it has been properly served. The number of registered voters is still coming in. I'm going to ballpark it at 125 so far. I am going to ask you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our nation's flag in the corner. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
How harmonious was that? You sound beautiful out there. Thank you. Before we get going into the meat of the meeting tonight, there are some things that we're going to do first. I'm going to read something from the Mothers Club that they handed me prior to the town meeting. Dear residents of the town of Hadley, Hadley's Mother Club regrets to inform you that for the first time in 35 years, we have made the difficult decision to cancel the candidates' night, originally scheduled for May 8th, due to lack of candidate response or participation. And nobody has responded to local TV5 for a little blurb about themselves also. So it looks like people are perhaps voting blind if you don't know the candidates. At this time, Springtown meeting, we have dedications to make. And at this time, I would like to call on Molly Keegan to make the first dedication. Would you like me to lower the microphone for you?
Thank you, Kirk. Always a gentleman. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. So tonight I have the pleasure of doing the first dedication of our annual report. And this dedication is for Duff Pipchinsky, and I'm hoping that his family members can come on up. We've got Dennis, Janie, and Katie. So Adolf Duff Pipchinsky was born in Manhasset, Long Island, and moved to Hadley at an early age. He graduated from Hopkins Academy in 1950. After graduation, he worked on the family farm as a partner with his father until he got a job working at Agway. Duff served as the chief of police in Hadley for 20 years. He later worked for UMass Security and was known around the town of Hadley for many years of bus driving for the town and for five-star busing. Duff was known for his love of polka and would also let Hadley media know if there was a problem with the polka program. As someone recently said about Duff, if you were from Hadley, you knew Duff. He was everywhere and you knew him. Your folks knew him and your grandparents probably did too. The 2022 annual report is dedicated to Adolf Duff Pipchinsky. And for the next dedication, I'd like to invite up Joyce Junglo.
Good evening. Thanks everybody for coming. My dedication of the annual town book is to Shelley and Joe Boisvert. Are they here this evening? Good evening. It's with my great honor to also dedicate the annual report to Shelley and Joe Boisvert, because I need cheaters tonight. When Joe Boisvert starts, When Joe Boisvert started his maple syrup business in high school, his guidance counselor told him that he would never be successful as a maple farmer. Well, aren't we surprised? Over 25 years later, Joe and Shelley have proven that statement wrong. Through their hard work and dedication, they have made the North Hadley Sugar Shack an anchor of North Hadley. As a business and a community partner, Joe and Shelley constantly support their community, whether they are sponsoring local youth sports, donating to fundraisers, decorating the bridge in North Hadley, or the Christmas tree on Lake Warner every winter. Joe has served as a call force firefighter since 2014, and they both support the fire department when they respond to a call by donating needed snacks to help the firefighters. Every spring, they fill the public safety complex flower beds with color. For all of these and many other things, we dedicate the 2022 annual report to Joe and Shelley Boisvert. I'd like to invite up Randy Reisner. He told me not to mess up his name.
Iser.
to dedicate the Fred Oakley Annual Recipient Award.
Thank you, Joyce. Okay, it is my honor to give out the W. Fred Oakley Award this evening to Alan and Rosalie Weinberg. The W. Fred Oakley Award was established by the Select Board to honor members of the community who embody the spirit of volunteerism and service to the town of Hadley. The 2022 recipients of the award are Alan and Rosalie Weinberg. Where might they be? Right there. Come on up. Let people see who you are. Alan and Rosalie Weinberg are dedicated volunteers for the town of Hadley and have served the town in many capacities for many years. Rose currently serves as chair of the COA and volunteers at the Senior Center. She volunteered during the 350th celebration selling souvenirs and was instrumental in designing the popular Grown in Hadley yellow t-shirts. She is also a trustee of the Hadley Historical Society. Rose is a lifelong resident of the town. She grew up picking asparagus on family farmland and is a proud graduate of the 300th class of Hopkins Academy. She worked for many years at the Registrar's Office at UMass. Rose is an avid gardener and a member of the Western Mass Master Gardeners. Alan currently serves as chair of the Cemetery Committee and is on the Municipal Building Committee. He previously was a library trustee for several years and served on the Library Building Committee. He now volunteers at the library. Alan is also a trustee of the Historical Society. Alan worked in the Western Regional Office of the Mass DEP as Deputy Regional Director. He served as a U.S. Marine in Vietnam. In addition to volunteering on town boards and committees, Rose and Alan enjoy spending time with their grandchildren, reading, working in the yard and garden, and vacationing with friends and family on Cape Cod and in Florida. Thank you, Alan and Rosalie, for your service to the town of Hadley. Well, thank you.
Mike, you're about my height, so I'll leave the microphone up for you. Next, we have Chief Spanknable, who has some very important announcements that he would like to make. Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you, residents of the town of Hadley. Thank you, Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, for giving us a little time up front here. Honored and privileged to present to you tonight some really special folks who have taken a lot of time and done a lot of hard work. We are going to be promoting 2 of our full-time lieutenants to captains, and we have 4 call force members being promoted, call force firefighters being promoted to lieutenants. So first I'd like to ask them to come up and they're going to be joined by some of their family who will be pinning them. First off, I'd like to bring up David Spafford and his wife, Vicki. David is one of our full-time firefighters who just started last year with us. He joined our team last year just after the new budget started. He was actually our supervisor for Action Ambulance, and we were able to steal him. He has 35 years of experience as a EMS provider, and he has 25 years as a medic. He also was a firefighter in Agawam, and he has been working nonstop, diligently to get that ambulance that you see outside ready to roll, and I can't thank him enough for that. So thank you, Dave. We're going to be doing pinning in a moment, so if you want, you can hold the applause till after. Thank you. Next up is Nicholas Witowitz, and he's going to be coming up with AJ, Zoe, his children, and in the audience to take pictures is his wife, Michelle. And Nick is a lifelong resident of Hadley, and he joined our department in December of 2017. His wife, Michelle, is a employee for the town of Hadley, also with the public schools. And Nick is going to be promoted from firefighter to lieutenant tonight. Next up, I'd like to ask Austin Eigelhart. Austin Eigelhart with his father and mother, Karen and Frank. We also have in the audience Ashley, his wife, who's busy holding their little daughter. Austin joined the department in 2007 and decided to actually move into Hadley at the same time. And he's been very active and diligent with the department over the years, and Austin will also be promoted from firefighter to lieutenant. Next up is Dan Casal, and Dan Casal will be joined with his partner, Jess Daly. And Dan actually grew up in West Hampton, went to Amherst Public Schools, and then moved into Hadley in 2014, and has lived there ever since. And he joined the call force about that same time. He was also a member of the Amherst call force when he was going to school there. And finally, Jeff Moriarty, and he's being joined by his fiancée, Haley. Jeff is a lifelong resident of Hadley, and I can pretty much say that Jeff has been on the department since he was old enough to walk. His father is was a deputy chief of the Hadley Fire Department, and years and years of service in this family, including his grandfather, who was actually chief of department, also a World War II veteran, and very active in the department, 25-year deputy chief before he became the fire chief. So, I also have two captains, and these two gentlemen are my full-time captains, and I can't tell you how hard these two gentlemen work. The first one is Nicholas McKenna, and he's going to be joined by his grandfather, Jim. So Nick joined the call force out of high school. He was a Hopkins Academy graduate and a lifelong resident of Hadley. He's been on the department for 14 years, 9 as a full-time firefighter with me, and he actually took over my position when I was promoted to chief in 2013. Nick is our full-time captain of training and has been working so hard on making sure that our gentlemen and ladies are getting the best training possible. And he has also taken on a huge role with the state on the tech rescue team and trains diligently. I don't even know how many hours he's away doing all types of rescue, and I thank him for all the time he's putting into that. And finally, I have Captain Brian Washkevitz, excuse me, and he's bringing up enough people that's probably why we don't have enough seats. Brian's bringing up his family, his wife Sarah, his children Addison, Rylan, Cash, and Mac. Brian is a lifelong member of Hadley, but he decided to move over the border into Sunderland, but we still love him. He actually he was an employee of the DPW as the mechanic there, and I was lucky enough to be able to steal him in a transfer over to our department a number of years ago, and Brian was a call force firefighter prior to that out of high school as well. Brian is our full-time fire captain and maintenance officer. This gentleman can fix anything, anywhere, anytime, and I can't tell you the number of hours that he has invested in making that ambulance that you see outside functional. You were generous enough to purchase that from the city of Northampton for $20,000. With his hard work, I can tell you that the total cost for that ambulance to you, to get it on the road with new tires and scraping and scrubbing, and both of these gentlemen and the rest of these guys all working on it, about a total of $50,000. That ambulance today for us to buy new is over $500,000. So thank you to them for all that. I'll start handing the badges out. So I'm going to ask for their family members to actually take off their existing badges and put on their new badges. Just let me know when everybody's going. You want to go in front? We're really good at putting fires out. The pin's tough. All right, we good to go? So I'd now like to ask the town clerk to come up and swear in our new lieutenants, captains, and firefighters.
You solemnly swear to faithfully and impartially perform all the duties imposed upon you as captains, lieutenants, and members of the Hadley Fire Department in accordance with the bylaws of Hadley and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, so help you God. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. We have we actually have two additional things for you tonight, just briefly. One of them, I'd like to keep Captain Washkevitz up here with me. So Brian is the president of the Hadley Volunteer Firemen's Association, and he would like to make a presentation to the select board in the town of Hadley.
I got the short straw this year. So I'm current president of the Volunteer Fire Association that was developed way back in the 50s. What it is pretty much all current, past, and present members. We all stay together on an association, and we're able to use the money that we basically fundraise and get donated to us in order to make purchases, and we have scholarship funds, and we do different activities around. It's basically kind of like a way for us to purchase things without any it's not any money coming in from the town of Hadley directly, to do your taxes and stuff. Outside, you walk by a 2006 F-550 that we purchased used from a town out east in Concord. So we put it all together, and the truck has 4,000 miles on it. We changed a lot of stuff on it. I'd like to thank Rick Bermucci, one of our call guys, for helping us get the truck. And then the rest of the crew, basically, we kind of put it together, and, for our free time and stuff like that. If the department was gonna go to try to buy this truck today, it'd be well over $180,000. So the association, I'm just here presenting it. We all got together and put it together. So we're basically gonna give it to the town so we can all use it and enjoy it together. So.
I would just like to say how proud I am to have been the liaison to the fire department for many years. I certainly see how well and what they do for this town, and I think it just makes us all proud that they're a part of our town and do what they do for us. And this is one way of they give back to us, that's why we should give to them. And so thank you for supporting them in any which way that you do. Fundraisers are great, so please, when they come around or they do stuff, please help to fundraise them, because this is what they put their money back into the town. So thank you very much, and here's your keys back.
And the last thing, again, we've had a lot of really positive things this year, and I'd like to ask Police Chief Mike Mason to join me at the podium. And I would also like to ask a pretty important fellow to come up with us, and that is one of our dispatchers, and that's Henry Bai.
So we will keep this one very short, specifically because he doesn't like to be the center of attention, and to be honest, I'm fearing for our safety right now. On July 10th, 1976, Henry Bai worked his first shift as a dispatcher here in Hadley. Since that time, Henry has had a part in training almost every single dispatcher who has come through our agency. That includes Meg Cahill, who is his supervisor right now, and includes the chief of police. He will deny this to his grave, but during training one day, I was getting my codes wrong, and he made me stand in the corner of the dispatch room until I learned the codes. A little while ago, Henry retired. He had to retire because he retired from his full-time job, and then luckily, before COVID, he came back to work for us and has been working with us ever since then. He takes more shifts as a part-time dispatcher than almost any other dispatcher we have. He is not afraid to work night shifts. He's not afraid to work any shift. He's an amazing person to be around. There are currently approximately 4,000 emergency telecommunicators in the state of Massachusetts. And the man standing to my left was nominated by our dispatch supervisor to be Dispatcher of the Year and was selected to be Dispatcher of the Year in the entire state.
On behalf of the police chief and the fire chief, we think it's important that he actually take his wife out for a nice dinner. So both the chief and I would like to treat him to a nice gift card to a local restaurant for you to enjoy. And I can't thank you enough, Henry. You are a big deal. Thank you.
Oh, sure, they get to do the fun stuff. People think it's easy being tall. It's not easy being green either. All right. So, at this time, I'd like to introduce the people at the head tables. They've got name cards in front of them, but just so that everybody knows. We're going to start with the select board. We have Randy Iser. Wait a minute, I lost my notes here. Randy Iser, Amy Parsons, Molly Keegan, Joyce Chunglo, and the chair, Jane Naismith. And we have our town council, Lisa Mead, right there, and our town administrator, Carolyn Brennan, who worked very hard to try to make me look good tonight. I hope I don't let you down. It is early, yes it is. She's worked very hard to do that. Finance, well, let's start with Finance Committee. We have Paul Benjamin, we have Amy Fiden, And I was just told as the new chair, David Phil. And then we have the town clerk, Jessica Spanknabel, who is in charge of everything and works hard to make me look good up here also. I will do my best, you guys. I would like to recognize a dignitary that is here. Representative Dan Carey, please put your hand up and wave. Dan, if you're planning on being here for a while, I'd like to invite people to come up and talk to you about anything that they may want. I don't know what your schedule is permitting. I know that you're very busy. So. Fantastic. All right. So if you have any questions, he'll be back there. Now is the time to grab him and talk to him. All right. Now, more stuff. Go over the rules of the meeting. We hear this every meeting, but I got to do it. The meeting will be conducted according to town meeting time rules. If you wish to speak to an article, please approach one of the microphones and await to be recognized by the moderator. State your name and your residential address each time you've been recognized to speak. Keep all comments relative to the article or motion at hand. Do not disrespect any person. Do not refer to any previous speaker by name. Please use previous speaker instead. You may speak as many times as you feel necessary, but please give others a chance before returning to the microphone. If necessary, I'll ask you to wait to give others a chance to speak. Direct your comments to the moderator. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes or at the discretion of the moderator. All amendments must be submitted in writing to the moderator as soon as the amendment is offered. And I ask you to please put your... I turned the alarms off on my phone for those of you that were here for the fall town meeting. It's not going to go off. Please set your phones to vibrate or silent if you would also. Also, I understand we have a fair number of out-of-town visitors. We have 169 people from Hadley that are here. Thank you. If you're from out of town, please know that you cannot speak and cannot vote. However, with that said, I will entertain a motion to allow department heads and department members who are not registered voters in the town of Hadley to be allowed to address the town meeting from time to time for information regarding the warrants. Is there a second? Motion and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, please all in favor signify by raising your cards. A sea of blue out there. Love it. Thank you. Motion passes. We have a variety of handouts in back. If you do not have a copy of the annual town meeting or the warrant, they are in back. And I believe there's other information there as well. Oh, let's see. Wait a minute. Okay, we'll do Article 1 first. Article does not require a motion to vote. It is simply a notice for the annual town election. So you guys have that in there. I'm not going to read everything. We have the assessor, elector, board of health, housing, and a variety of seats in there. Too late to take out papers, Jess? A little bit too late. Okay. Next year, if you're interested. Next year. All right. Now, Articles 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, 13, and 14 are designated of the consent agenda and are considered routine and will be acted upon as a single motion. Items may be removed from the consent agenda by the moderator in order to address any voter concerns or questions. This is simply a process to speed up the meeting. If you take a look through, I'm going to give everybody just a couple of minutes to take a look through. It is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, 13, and 14. Basically, there's like terms of borrowing, highway funds, things like that, willingness to accept grants.
So moved. Second.
All right. All right, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion concerning those? And again, if you do have a concern as we get to them and as you read them, please let me know and we'll be able to address it for you. This does not mean that you cannot ask a question, for example, on Article 12. If you have a question in Article 12, by all means, please go to the microphone, ask your question, and your question will be addressed by the appropriate board. All those in favor of the articles or consent agenda, please signify by raising your blue card. Awesome, thank you. You can put that down. That motion passes. I would say 140. Okay, technicality here. Anyone opposed to the consent agenda? Unanimous. There we go. All right. I'm just going to read the articles. We're not going to vote on them, so I'm going to read Articles 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, 13, and 14. And please follow along. If you have any questions, please approach the microphone. To see if the town will vote to authorize the Select Board to apply for and expend any Massachusetts Small Cities Program grants and monies, or any federal, state, or grant or monies received as set forth in the appropriate application, or take any action relative therefor. Finance and Select Board recommend them unanimously. Article 2, move the Select Board is authorized to apply for and expend Massachusetts Small Cities Programs, grants, and money, or any federal or state grants or monies received as set forth in the appropriate action. You got the explanation there. Article 3, to see if the town will vote to appropriate funds provided to the town by the state under Chapter 90, and such funds as the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Transportation may provide, and further, to authorize the Select Board to enter into contracts with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Highway Division for Chapter 90 type money allocated to the town by the state, or take any action relative thereto. Finance and Select Board all vote unanimously on that. Article 4, I'm going to start reading these in motion form. I apologize, I should have been doing that before. In motion form, Article 4, move the town authorize the treasurer with the approval of the Select Board to borrow money from time to time in anticipation of revenue for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023, in accordance with the provisions of the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 4, and to issue note or notes thereof payable within 1 year, and renew any note or notes as may be given for a period of less than 1 year in accordance with the Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 17. And there is an explanation there also. Give everybody a second just to kind of peruse it there. Article 5, motion that the town transfer $50,000 from the water resources to the Water Plant Filtration Stabilization Fund as per the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 40, subsection 5B, as the purpose of repairing and replacing the water plant filtration membranes and associated expenses. And the explanation is there as well. So let's see, I go up to Article 6. Where was that one? There it is. Okay, Article 6. Motion, move the town authorize in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30B, subsection 12B, the town administrator or Select Board to solicit and award contracts for terms exceeding 3 years, including any renewal, extension, or option, provided in each instance the longer term is determined to be in the best interest of the town by vote of the Select Board. We are going to be moving from Article 6 now to Article 12. Article 12, move that the town act on the report of the Community Preservation Committee on the fiscal year 2024 budget and to reserve for later appropriation the following sums of money from the Community Preservation Fund estimated annual revenues. Open space, $50,000. Historic preservation, $50,000. Housing resources, $50,000. And further appropriate the sum of $10,000 from the Community Preservation Fund estimated fiscal year 2024 annual revenues for all necessary and proper expenses of the Community Preservation Committee for the year, including any administrative expenses, and further to appropriate from the Community Preservation Fund any sum or sums of money from the community preservation projects or purposes that may be recommended by the Community Preservation Committee. Does somebody from the CPA want to address that one? No? Okay. Would you like an address by the CPA? No? Okay, we'll move on. And
13.
Article 13. Move the town extend the deadline for the project funded by the Community Preservation Act as funds as listed in Article 13. So we got the Gannadic mural restoration, North Hadley Cemetery. The Community Preservation Committee, Finance Committee, and Select Board recommend unanimous. What's that? What's that? Oh, I'm sorry, wrong one. I apologize. I was one ahead. The clock repair for the First Congregational Church, extension deadline 1 year. Goodwin Memorial Library, extended 1 year. Community Preservation Act Committee, Finance Committee, and Select Boards all vote in favor unanimously. Article 14, motion. Move the town vote to transfer the prior town meeting article to their original funding source or take any action relative thereto. Here we have the Gannadic mural restoration, $40. North Hadley Cemetery, $29,550. Community Preservation Committee, Finance Committee, and Select Board all recommend 100%. Before we move to a vote, are there any questions on any of the articles that we've just gone over? What's that? Already voted? All right. Well, anybody have any questions they would like to have addressed?
Shell Horowitz, 16 Barstow Lane. Procedurally, I would hate to have to do this all again because what I thought we'd done is we had agreed to put them all on a consent agenda that we have to now vote up or down.
Randy, could you?
I said, I disagree. We voted the consent agenda,
Mm-hmm.
and then the moderator decided to be a kind person and explain everything to us. So that's all he was doing. Okay?
You didn't need to read it. No.
Moving on. All right, so through the consent, we've done 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's go to Article 7. Yes.
So I just have a quick question.
Your name and your address, please.
David Ryman, 10 Isabel Court. On Article 13, for the Goodwin Memorial Study, I think it's saying the annual town meeting in 2020 was when we authorized the study. I was just wondering what was the cause of the delay? I mean, the pandemic, I guess, for 2020, but why are we extending it again? Why is the study delayed?
So yes, COVID was one of the reasons that it got delayed initially. We have gone out to bid, but this bid, we didn't have any bidders come in, so we need to extend it so that we can modify that RFP and send it out again.
Thank you, Carolyn. Okay, on to Article 7. Move the town vote to transfer from available funds as printed in the warrant. Now, there's a typo that's in here. If you look at the top of page 4, Tata and Howard, that should be $2,500 water reserves. And therefore, that changes the bottom line there in the motion from $8,506 to $9,506.50. So I'll read that motion with those numbers. Move the town to vote to transfer from available funds as printed in the warrant $9,506.50 to cover costs associated with the fiscal year 2022 budget. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions on that? Seeing none, move to a vote. All in favor, please raise your blue cards. Thank you. Those opposed? Unanimous, 150. Article 8, move the sum of $20,400,000 $461,072 be appropriated for the maintenance and operation of the town in fiscal year 2024 and fix the salaries of all elected officials as recommended in the individual budget appropriations listed in the handout Finance Committee FY24 budgets. Table A, General Fund Operating Budget. And as funded, therefore, to raise and appropriate and transfer from available funds the amounts in Table A1 as presented in the annual meeting and incorporated by reference herein. Is there a second? Second. It's been, we have a motion to waive the line-by-line reading of the budget. Is there a second? Second. There's a lot of seconds on that one. Enthusiastic second. Yes. Any conversation or comments on that? Seeing none, please all raise your blue tags if you are in favor of that. Thank you. You can put those down. Those opposed? 149 to 1. I know Edwin would do that. All right, good stuff. All right, so did we vote on Article 8? No, now we need to vote on the budget. Okay. So, Article 8, been motioned and seconded and amended to not read line by line. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by raising your blue cards. Thank you. Put those down. Those opposed? 150, unanimous. Motion number 9, move the sum of $940,254 as recommended in the handouts, Finance Committee FY24 budgets, Table B as in Bravo, Enterprise Fund Operating Budget and Expenses, be appropriated for the FY 2024 Wastewater Sewer Division Enterprise Fund to be expended for the respective purposes set forth, and as funded, therefore, raise and appropriate and transfer from available funds the amount in Table B1 as presented in the annual town meeting incorporated by reference thereof. And further, move that the sum of $1,307,431 as recommended in the handout Finance Committee FY24 budgets, Table B as in Bravo, Enterprise Fund Operating Budget and Expenses, be appropriated to the FY 2024 Water Division Enterprise Fund to be expended for the respective purposes set forth, and as funded, therefore, raise and appropriate and transfer from available funds the amount in Tables B1 as presented in the annual town meeting and incorporated by reference therein. And further, move the sum of $78,554 as recommended in the handout Finance Committee FY24 budgets, Table B as in Bravo, Enterprise Fund, Operating Budget and Expenses, be appropriated to the FY 2024 Hadley Media Enterprise Fund to be expended for the respective purposes set forth and as funding therefore. Raise and appropriate and transfer from available funds the amounts in Table B1 as presented in the annual town meeting incorporated by reference therein. Is there a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Yes.
Mr. Moderator, could you just please repeat the motion when you call for a vote? It's not very clear what we're voting on with the motions, that's all.
Okay, would you like me to reread this one?
Not this one, but
Okay.
with the last one where we had the motion for skipping line item reading.
Yep.
It wasn't clear that that was the motion we were voting on. I'm
Okay.
fine with the votes, to be clear.
Yep.
But just make it clear so that we know when to raise the hands. That's all.
So noted, thank you. My apologies. All right, so we are on Article 9, motioned and seconded. Any further conversation? Seeing none, all in favor, please raise your blue cards. Thank you. You can put those down. Those opposed? 150 unanimous. Article 10, move that the town appropriate $402,307 from free cash and ambulance receipts reservoir a special fund authorized by Mass General Law, Chapter 40, subsection 5F, for the purpose of receiving fees from the town ambulance service, such expended amounts to be refunded from the special revenue fund by vote at a future town meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Someone want to address this one? Molly, yeah, please.
Thank you. All right, thank you, everybody. Just wanted to give a quick background, and then Chief Spanknebel is going to provide you with some data to help you with your decision tonight. Some of you may remember that for many decades we enjoyed ambulance service that was provided to us by the town of Amherst. Several years ago, we went out to bid on that, and we made a decision to move to Action EMS. We've been enjoying the services that they've been providing now for several years. And in so doing, we cut response times in the town of Hadley by half. And there's been no quality degradation to speak of, so we've been very pleased with their services. That said, this was all part of a multi-year strategy that was discussed many years ago. And the plan has always been that we would eventually start building out the ambulance service here in town. So what you're being asked to do tonight is put us kind of in the first step in that direction. So this particular article, we're asking you to take advantage of what is a unique opportunity right now. We have a record high level of free cash that you probably saw on the slides at the beginning showing the balances. And because of that, we think it's a really good time to use some of that free cash for seed money. It costs a fair amount of money to get an ambulance service up and running. So the intent is that we would be supplementing, not getting rid of, but supplementing the service that Action is providing by bringing up a BLS, a basic life support ambulance service, to be run by our own town fire department. Again, it's part of a multi-year strategy. This is seed money. The intent would be that this ambulance service could pick up some of the calls that we're currently losing. So there would be some revenue generated from this, and eventually over time would be putting us on a path to building out our own fully in-house ambulance service. But again, that's a multi-year strategy. So I just wanted to give you that as a background and now turn it over to Chief Spanknebel. And Evan, sorry.
This is my Deputy Chief, Evan Bryan, as well, in case I get tongue-tied. So we just wanted to give you some information on our staffing and some other statistics and data. So we finally have the ability to track the data, and we've put this together for you for your information. So currently, our current staffing model is myself, the fire chief, our deputy chief. We have 2 full-time captains that you met tonight, 2 full-time firefighters, and 1 full-time firefighter EMS coordinator who you also met this evening, for a total of 7 full-time firefighters. We have 1 fire admin part-time for 19 hours, and then our call force consists of currently 3 call force lieutenants, 19 call force firefighters, and 1 junior firefighter who's a student here at Hopkins Academy, for a total of 23 call force members. Our department total is 30. Our proposed staffing model is, again, myself, I'm an EMT, my deputy chief's an EMT, 2 full-time captains are both EMTs. We would have 5 full-time firefighters for a total of 9. We have, again, the fire admin. We are now up to 5 call force lieutenants as of tonight. 3 of them are EMTs, and then we have 16 call force firefighters, and 8 of those are EMTs as well. We also, again, have the junior firefighter for a total of 22. Just wanted to give you that information so you could see how many EMTs that we would have available to be operating the ambulance that you see outside. So this is our proposed staffing model. So currently, we have 2 groups. We have a group A and a group B. And basically, the full-time members work a 4-on, 4-off rotating schedule. It averages about 42 hours a week. They're on from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., and then we turn over to a call force after 6 p.m. After 6 p.m., myself, the deputy, we're on call 24/7, and we respond, and then also our call force firefighters, when they're available, respond to cover calls. So if approved, we are looking to start this BLS ambulance service, so A1, the ambulance you see outside. We're looking to get it operational on July 1st. Currently, it's being licensed. We have all the equipment on board, all out of our current budget, and basically we're ready to go. We're just waiting for the state. They would come out and inspect it, and we're in the process of doing all of our training in coordination with Action EMS, because they have EMTs and paramedics that are assisting us as well. Again, Action Med 1 is our primary ambulance service. We are contracted with them, and they provide our advanced level service. So they are responding to all the primary calls. The problem is that we are missing between 100 and 150 calls per year, second calls, when they are out transporting or on a call. So what we're looking to do is to try and bring that revenue, but also to keep up on our response times, quick response times during the daytime hours, and what we're looking to do is put that ambulance service for those second calls. Again, this is going to be a BLS ambulance service during the daytime, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. to start, with our full-time firefighters, and again, for second calls for service. We are also scheduled, I received an email today from the Chief of Northampton, John Davin, who just wanted to wish us luck, and he just wanted to say how hopeful he is that this will go through, because it's adding another huge resource to this county. You folks probably all see how many ambulances drive through our community day in and day out, and it has put an extreme strain on all of the departments. So they are looking at this as an additional resource to them to call for help, as they always answer the call for us. So again, this is just our current fire response for medical calls. During the day, our full-time firefighters, they're all EMTs, and the firefighter you met today is also a paramedic. They respond with Action EMS on all calls. The reason why we do that is we are looking for a quick turnaround time, and we need all hands on deck for loading the patient, getting the patient into the ambulance. We carry equipment. We're basically there to assist the paramedic and the EMT from Action to make sure that that transition for those patients are getting the best care possible, and then also getting to the hospital as quickly as possible. They're also available. We have numerous calls where our firefighters actually have to get on board and actually drive the ambulance for them, because it's all hands on deck in the back. We've had up to 4 firefighters and EMTs in the back of the ambulance working patients with one of our firefighters driving it. So that's why we are responding to all the medical calls. Again, at night when we turn to call force, if any of our EMT firefighters on the call force are available and they are available to respond, we welcome that and we encourage that. And if our Action Med 1 at night needs assistance, they will tone out again for additional manpower if needed from the fire department, and usually we'll get some folks that will show up and do that. We just wanted to give you some call volume. So again, we have a very nice community of 5,300 folks, but we have a monstrous Route 9 that runs down the middle of it with so many businesses. With an average of 30 to 60,000 people in our community every day, and again, it's a bear. So you can see 2019, we had 1,498 responses. That's fire and EMS. That's not Action EMS's calls. That's not our ALS ambulance. That's our fire department. You can see there was a drop in 2020 due to COVID. Nobody was calling to go to the hospital. Everybody was staying at home. And again, 2021, we were still seeing those effects. And in 2022, we have now seen the increase. So again, at the bottom, you can see that 70% of our calls when we're doing our modeling, 70% sometimes closer to 80 of our calls are during the daytime hours of 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. This is some of our statistics for last year, for 2022. So we had 792 fire calls, 731 EMS calls that our fire department responded to. We'll show you actions total numbers, which you can pretty much double that number. Again, from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., you can see the call volume. And then 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., we had 271 calls, and 54 of those calls, we had one person respond, which is concerning. But again, we have call force firefighters, and sometimes they're just not available. And all of them have full-time jobs, families, and sometimes it's just not physically possible for them to get there. We also had 298 overlapping calls, and I'm going to let Evan describe the overlapping.
So the overlapping calls means that it's numerous calls that are going on at the same time. So if we have a ambulance call on Route 9 and then a car accident, then we have multiple people going to different locations. That's including the medical calls that we have. We have Amherst and Northampton come in, or South Hadley District 1 or District 2, or South County Ambulance. But that number is pretty big for around the area for overlapping calls with other towns as well. They don't have a big number as what we have.
We also included on this for you our mutual aid responses. So in 2022, we responded to 31 calls for mutual aid. The city of Northampton has been extremely busy, and our ladder truck is first due to all their structure fires, along with East Hampton and actually South Deerfield as well. So we are automatic aid to them. We've also been to Amherst, Granby, Hatfield, South Hadley, District 2 for calls. And then at the bottom, you can see the State Fire Mobilization Task Force. All communities in the state of Massachusetts are a part of this state plan, and in the event of a large fire, for example, the Worcester fire that we had in 1999 or the brush fire that we had on the mountain, that this is a resource that a fire chief can call for and ask for. So a forestry task force, an ambulance task force, which actually a few weeks ago for the Blarney blowout, there was a task force assignment of ambulance shipped to Amherst, and again, we are very active with that for tanker shuttles, forestry, and every once in a while we will be called for a structural fire task force. This just breaks down the different types of calls. So you can see the fires, 40 fires, rescue and emergency medical services. So rescue is car accidents. Again, going out on emergency responses, so 951. Hazardous conditions without fire, service calls, good intent calls. Somebody sets off their smoke detector in the house by accident. They're cooking. There was no malice. They didn't do it purposely, but we have to respond to make sure everything's good. We have to respond to those calls because we have had situations where folks think that it's just the smoke detector going off because they were cooking, when in actuality something's going on in one of the cabinets or something in the house. Carbon monoxide. A lot of folks think it's just the battery. We've been in houses before where there's very high levels of CO, where they think it's just the battery that's defective. So we always want to make sure that we're going out to those. And of course, we do have a large number of false alarms, and we do, if we start seeing where it's malicious, where they're not correcting it, somebody has a defective fire alarm system, we are ordering them to repair it, to fix it, and if we have to, then we would go through the process of finding them. But we try and make it an educational thing rather than that. Then also our severe weather events. In 2022, we had one, but that can also take quite a few resources. This is just so you can actually get the scope of the calls during the time frames of the day, so you can see where that 70% of the calls is. And then current year. So this is the beginning. So we are back to pre-COVID call volume now. So for 2019, January through April, we had 506 calls. We are already 2.7% above that for 2023 at 520 calls for service. Now we're moving into what our Hadley Action Med 1, so our ALS, Advanced Life Support, that we are contracted with, what they're responding to. So you can see the call volume. We have a pretty substantial call volume. So the actual call volume in 2019 is the 1236. They could go to a car accident and somebody could refuse treatment. We could go to somebody's house and they could decide not to get in the ambulance and go to the hospital. So our actual transports that are being billed out are 797. And again, you can go down the list and you can see it's certainly not going down. Again, the reason why we're coming to you tonight is we average between 100 and 150 missed calls. So calls where our primary ambulance, our Action Med 1, is on a call. And basically, the reason why we feel it's important to have this ambulance put into place is they will be covering those 100 to 150 calls that come up. And again, if for some reason that our second ambulance, because we've had up to 3-4 ambulances at a call every once in a while, we get those rare cases where we'll have a 3 or 4 car accident where, you know, there's multiple people injured. So we could have 3 or 4 ambulances in town, and we still have that ability to call mutual aid if needed. And then to start out with, this is going to be during the daytime hours when the majority of the calls are. We're not going to be operating this ambulance. We don't have the staffing for it at this time, but we are looking at some models to try and push that through the overnight hours. But we will certainly keep you up to date on all that as it happens. Again, we're doing this in a phased approach. Again, so all these responses are going to be billed out, and so there is a revenue source here. We were asked to give a projection. I hate giving estimates, but again, I was asked to do that, and if we do get that 100 to 150 calls with Medicare, Medicaid rates, and potential for us being upgraded to an ALS service because we call for mutual aid or an intercept, we are anticipating an average of $750 per call. So we are not going to be able to cover, after the first year, the budget. Again, all these revenues will be going into that special revenue account to start building up that revenue account. Again, we went through the overlapping calls. Again, these are just some examples of incidents of concern. So on December 30th, 2022, we were toned off, our fire department was toned off for the smell of odor of gas, and it was at Greenleaves Drive, and it was in the family housing. So 40 units, 40 family units there in one building. I was the first one to respond, and I was told by the folks that met me at the front door that they smelled something that smelled like gas or burning, and they said that their little cat was actually pawing at the closet door and wouldn't stop. But none of the detectors had gone off in the space, so I went upstairs by myself again, and it takes time for our call force guys to get to the station and to get their equipment on, get into the truck. And we did have a response with, I believe, 2 on the truck, but I was lucky enough to get there in time where they have gas-fired hot water heaters in each apartment. I opened the door to that closet that was in, and there was flames coming up the side of the water heater. Basically free burning with the gas flowing. There was a defect in the base or something had failed. Luckily, there was a shut-off that wasn't melted at that time, so I was able to shut off the gas. But again, with 1 firefighter there, technically based upon OSHA standard, I'm supposed to wait outside until there's a minimum of 4 firefighters there, because we're supposed to have 2 in and 2 out. So if something happens to our 2 that are in there, there's 2 more that can go in there and pull them out. So again, am I going to let Winfield family housing go up in flames? No. So we're doing what we can do, but we just want you to see that these are some concerns that we have because we're not staffed to the proper level yet. January 14th, do you want to talk about that one? Remember what that one is?
So January 14th, we are called to Greenleaves Drive for a fire alarm. I responded. When I get on scene, there was water coming out of the 3rd floor. A sprinkler head let go and flooded the whole units, about 40 units. We had to evacuate people, and the chief, when he came, he went right to the hotels and started calling hotels and everything, and we started to make sure we had accountability for everyone. We moved everyone downstairs real quick. We shut the water off real quick. And then we also started covering everyone's items and everything that were getting damaged to help them. And then all the firefighters that came assisted everyone with the move over into the hotels.
So the concern is the initial response was the deputy chief, and then when he reported what was actually happening, then we were able to get some additional staff rolling. But it was a bear. This is in the middle of the winter with seniors that we had to move 40 apartments by vehicle down the street. Luckily, we have great partners in Hadley in our hotels, and they put them up. And there were some of them that were staying there for over a month. Working with the Council on Aging. The Council on Aging is just amazing in Hadley. The amount of work that they do coordinating with us to make sure that folks even had cat food at the hotel because everything was just soaked. So again, we just wanted to express some of the concerns that we have. And then here's some success stories. And I'm going to let him talk because he's actually the guy.
Greg Wallach, East Commons Drive. Call the question.
Procedurally, motion to call the question takes precedent. So at this point, all in favor of calling the questions requires a 2/3 majority. Please raise your blue cards. Okay, you can put those down. Those opposed? It carries. I would say 147 to 3. It has been moved and seconded. We will now move to a vote. This is for, God, I lost track of the.
Article 10.
Article 10. All those in favor of Article 10, please raise your blue cards. Thank you. You can put those down. All those opposed? 149 to 1. Motion carries. Thank you. Mike, they shut you down, but they gave you what you wanted. All right. Article 11, move the town authorize and total expenditures for the revolving fund set forth in Section 86-9 of the town bylaws and pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, subsection 5(3)(e) and a half for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023, to be expended in accordance with the bylaws, therefore approved, and further, to see if the town will vote to dissolve the Ways and Measures North Hadley Hall Rentals and Planning Department revolving funds and return the remaining balance of $39,472.61 to the general fund. Article 11. Amy, please. Thank you.
I'll keep it brief. So essentially, this article would set the maximum amount to be spent from the departmental revolving funds established by the town bylaws for FY 2024 in connection with the operation of programs or activities that generate fees, charges, or other receipts to support all or some of the expenses of these programs or activities.
All right. It's been moved. Is there a second? Seconded. Any comments or questions regarding Article 11? Seeing none, move to a vote. All in favor of Article 11, please raise your blue cards. Thank you. You can put those down. Those opposed? Article 11 passes 149 to 1. We already addressed Articles 12, 13, and 14. We will proceed to Article 15. Historic samplers. Move the town transfer $18,000 from the Community Preservation Act Historic Fund to the Hadley Historical Society for the restoration and preservation of 10 historic needlepoint samplers from the 18th and 19th centuries. Said funds to be expended under the direction of the town administrator within 2 years of date of the town meeting approval. Any unspent funds will be automatically returned to the foregoing Community Preservation Fund by that date. Is there a second? Any questions or comments concerning that? I think this one's kind of interesting myself.
Ronnie Williams, East Commons Drive. That seems awfully high. Could somebody explain how it costs almost $2,000 per sampler to do this?
Oh, there we go, I'm sorry, yes. If you just state your name and address.
Alan Weinberg, 108 Bay Road. I'm a trustee of the Historical Society. We're asking for the CPA funds for this project for 10 samplers, which date back to the 18th century. They were done by...
Closer to the microphone.
Sorry. The samplers were done by women, young girls from Hadley, and they were either girls from Hadley or girls who had family connections to Hadley. They are in need of restoration and conservation because they were, many of them were folded, stored away folded, so they're creased. They need to be cleaned. They need to be put on acid-free backing materials and put in archival frames so that they can be displayed more frequently and protected from the ultraviolet light. We had a conservation assessment done by a professional conservator who looked at and examined all the samplers and came up with a plan for doing the restoration, and that's the figure that we're using from that assessment. And actually, the assessment was for more than $18,000. We are only asking for a portion of the total. We're contributing some money of our own. We hope to get more grants. And yes, it's a lot of money, but it's comparable to the amount that we spent a few years ago to restore the 17th century maps that were done by Nathaniel Kellogg, the maps of early Hadley. And we did 2 of those were restored for $4,000. So, yeah, it's expensive, but that's what it costs to do it properly.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, this is Article 15. We will move to a vote. All those in favor, please raise your blue cards. Thank you. You can lower those. All those opposed? 149 to 1. Article 16, Lake Warner Study. Move the town transfer $20,700 from the Community Preservation Act open space to the Friends of Lake Warner for a study to develop a long-range management plan to preserve, protect, and manage the lake. Said funds to be expended under the direction of the town administrator within 2 years of the date of the town meeting approval. Any unspent funds will automatically be returned to the foregoing Community Preservation Act fund by that date. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. And let's see. Addressing it as a question or a member as committee member?
I'm addressing in support of the article.
Name and address.
Brian Pearson. I'm on 12 Breckenridge Road. I'm a board member of the Friends of Lake Warner for the past 2 years. The Friends of Lake Warner is a 501c3 dedicated to the preservation and improvement of Lake Warner. Lake Warner was originally formed by a dam on the Mill River, first constructed in 1670. More recently, nearly $500,000 was invested in a new dam completed in 2017. This included $100,000 in CPA funds. Lake Warner is one of the best local places to birdwatch, fish, and enjoy nature. Local residents, as well as many visiting anglers, enjoy trophy bass fishing on Lake Warner. Kayakers and canoers also enjoy paddling on Lake Warner. The Friends of Lake Warner is seeking this funding to develop the lake management plan, and the plan will guide us in our efforts to improve water quality and reduce invasive species. Once we have raised these funds, we will work with SWCA, an environmental engineering firm with an office in Amherst, to perform the necessary work to develop the lake management plan. The lake management plan will be based on a survey of lake users, water and sediment test, survey of aquatic plants. We hope you will support these efforts to improve one of Hadley's most important historical and recreational treasures. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions concerning Article 16? Seeing none, all in favor, please raise your blue cards. Thank you. You can put those down. Those opposed? 148 to 2. Article 17, move the town appropriate and transfer $15,000 from the Community Preservation Act Historic Fund to the Hadley Historic Commission for 4 signs with historical information and images, an update to the West Street walking tour, and a new audio drive tour. Said tours to be expended under the direction of the town administrator within 2 years of the date of the town meeting approval. Any unspent funds will be automatically returned to the foregoing Community Preservation Act fund by that date. Is there a second? I hear a second. Article 17. Anyone from the CPA? There we go.
Diana West, 164 South Maple Street, chairperson of the Hadley Historical Commission. The Hadley Historical Commission has been working on these 3 projects, and we are reaching the final stages of completion. These projects focus on preservation of the town's historic resources, namely its historic buildings, structures, and locations that are recognized by the Historic Commission as significant to the history of our town. These 3 projects target Hadley's 4 listings on the National Register of Historic Places, which are also listed on the State Register of Historic Places: Hockanum Village, Hadley Center Historic District, including the West Street Common, North Hadley Historic District, and Porter Phelps Huntington House Museum and the 40 Acres Skirt District. These 3 projects will identify the town's tangible historical resources and describe their significance, thus encouraging and supporting the preservation of these resources for now and well into the future. Education of the population as to the location and significance of these resources is key to their preservation. There will be 4 signs with historical information located in Hockanum by the schoolhouse, the center of town by the Goodwin Memorial Building, the Common by the bike path, and North Hadley where Mount Warner Road meets River Drive. The DPW director has confirmed the locations of the signs. The locations were chosen as spots that motorists can safely pull off the road and stop to read the signs. The signs will be double-sided, providing information in English and Spanish, and include a QR code that will take readers to more information, as well as the audio driving tour. We are hoping that these very visible signs will encourage people to stop and learn more about the history of Hadley, as well as download the audio driving tour. We are hopeful that this will mean visitors are spending more time in Hadley and becoming patrons of local businesses, restaurants, and cultural institutions. And those are some drafts of the signs. They're a little cut off right now, but there will be QR codes on the bottom that you can't see. The West Street Walking Tour was first written and published by the 1987 Hadley Historical Commission, and then the 2012 Historical Commission, in conjunction with Hadley's 350th Committee, updated and reprinted the tour in 2012. The new version will include more photos and historical information. We used our $300 FY 2022 budget to pay for the cover design, as seen on the slides. This project's goal is to document an ever-changing history of the town of Hadley and to foster a deeper value and connection to place for West Street residents, and Hadley visitors alike. The audio driving tour has the most expansive history of Hadley and allows the listener to take a drive from Hockanum north on Route 47 into the center of town, over to West Street, and then north on Route 47 into North Hadley. The goal of this project, like the others, is to establish value, meaning, and connection to place for Hadley residents and Hadley visitors. We anticipate that of these 3 projects, this one will be the most to attract outside visitation to Hadley, and therefore out-of-town dollars spent at local businesses. Extensive research and time has been dedicated to making sure these projects represent the townspeople of Hadley, past and present, including accurate and respectful representation of the Native peoples who lived and continue to live here in the Connecticut River Valley. The Hadley Historical Commission believes that historic preservation starts with education. These 3 projects provide a good overview of Hadley's history from pre-European colonization to today. They highlight Hadley's historic landscape as well as her historic buildings. As noted in the warrant, the CPA approved the project, sending it here to the full town meeting floor. The select board also approved the project and the signs at their April 12th, 2023 joint meeting with the Finance Committee. And we also received approval for the signs from the Planning Board at their December 12th, 2022 meeting. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Did you consider a 3-sided sign, English, Spanish, and Polish?
perhaps if you scan the QR code, we might be able to expand on that.
Okay.
Could we go back to the slide with the location of the signs? Is that the exact location of the North Hadley sign?
When it comes time to installing the signs, we will work with the DPW director to finalize the location. I know people use that as a parking area. I think you can even see a truck is parked in there. If you look on Google Maps, you'll see some cars parked there. We might move it more to the north, so it's more in that like triangle area to allow for better parking. But that will ultimately be determined by the DPW director once the sign is fabricated.
So that's not the official location?
It's close, but possibly not the official location, correct?
Can I make an amendment?
So as of right now, from what I understand, this article does not include the location of the signs. It's just to provide funding for us to fabricate them, and then we will work with town officials to finalize the locations.
I would suggest meeting with the committee and making a recommendation. Again, as she has pointed out, there's no location specification in the article, but.
Thank you.
But by all means, please.
Our next meeting is May 23rd.
Where?
It'll be on Zoom, so check out, agenda posted probably next week or
Okay.
the week after.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments concerning Article 17? Seeing none, move to a vote. All in favor of Article 17, please raise your blue cards. Thank you. You can put those down. Those opposed? 148 to 2. Article 18, move the town appropriate the sum of $40,000 from the Community Preservation Historic Set-Aside Fund for the Select Board to engage a firm to undertake a reuse feasibility study for the Russell School. Said funds to be expended under the direction of the town administrator within 2 years of the date of town meeting approval. Any unspent funds will automatically be returned to the foregoing Community Preservation Act fund by that date. Do I have a second? Second. Moved and seconded. Article 18. Carolyn.
I'll be speaking on behalf of the Select Board. This is a request from the Select Board for $40,000 to engage a firm to undertake a feasibility study for the Russell School. You will see the scope of work. One ahead. It will help frame the decision-making for the town and to define the case for the following 4 outcomes. A public project, the building will be funded by public sources with a public end use. Public-private partnership, the building will be funded by both public and private sources with both public and private users. Eligibility for historic and other tax credits will be reviewed. Private project, the public will be offered for sale, long-term lease to the private market with potential deed restrictions. Demolition, a review of the process, procedures, and cost for such actions will be included in the report. The scope of work will also include coordination with town administration and the Select Board, as well as community members, neighbors, and advocacy groups to ensure robust public engagement, a pre-development, stabilization, construction, and operating budget estimates, funding source identifications, including but not limited to state and federal grants and historic tax credits, and assist in project advocacy with local, state, and federal officials and partners. And also part of that scope of work is they will be looking at other studies that have been done previously with the Russell School.
Diana West, 164 South Maple Street. I was fortunate enough to attend the CPA committee meetings in February and March, and at those meetings, a application was brought forward to stabilize Russell School for, I believe, $1.2 million, and the CPA committee voted to send it to town meeting floor. I am wondering what became of that article.
So the Russell School is under the a jurisdiction of the Select Board, and they were very concerned about the cost of the stabilization, and there had been concerns brought before them, and discussions with the CPA and the Select Board together felt that this was going to provide the answers that many of the residents were asking about, was what were the options. And so that is why it went forward this way, with the Select Board requesting for the feasibility study.
Did that answer your question? It did, okay. I was wondering.
Edwin Matuska, 116 Stockbridge Street. I would like to say, Mr. Moderator, that there is a faction in town that just wants to tear things down. That's it. That's all they want to do. And this is one thing that wants to be torn down.
Close to the microphone.
This is just one thing that wants to be torn down. And I agree with the young lady that spoke earlier. We, as a committee, came before the Board of Selectmen 2 weeks ago. And we were convinced to change our minds. You'll notice that the vote on the Russell School was 501. We didn't even have a full committee. So I would think that this is so abhorrent to our means that I can't support it at all. And if the Board of Selectmen wants to do this, so be it. I don't care. But, you know, this is just wrong. This is just so wrong. And I hope that this article gets defeated tonight. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments to address to the article, Article 18? Oh, here we go. Didn't have to run, but that's okay.
Been a long meeting. Amanda Kirk, 119 West Street. I have two questions. One is, could the demolition option be eliminated so that's not considered, that it's sort of understood that that's not on the table as an option for the building? And number two, what happens if this article is defeated and we don't go forward with the study of the options? Does it just sit there with nothing happening to it because no decision has been made, or what happens if this is defeated?
Well, let's address your first question. Are you making a motion that the demolition aspect be removed from the article? Feasibility study, okay, all right. Okay, my apologies. Feasibility study.
If that's an option, yes. It's unclear to me if that is allowed. Yeah.
It's not. That's the feasibility study. That's part of the research that they're planning on doing. And I'm sorry, your second question?
Was about if this feasibility study is not funded, then what happens?
Oh, Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so essentially this article has nothing to do with what is going to happen to the building. So this article is just for the town to give the money to have a study done. So it has absolutely nothing to do with the future of Russell School, other than a study being done to give the town options to later vote on. Like what needs to be done to it, yeah.
So if the study doesn't happen, if we don't fund the study.
Correct.
Then what happens to the building?
So here's the thing. So if this article doesn't pass, you're back to square one, which is nothing, which is coming up with a new article for fall town meeting. So it would be in the best interest of the town to support this so that we can get answers and options for what the town can do for the future of this building. Because the further we delay it, the higher the cost of stabilization will be in the future, essentially.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Shel Horowitz, 16 Barstow Lane. I agree with what the previous speaker said about needing to move on this now. The longer we wait, the harder it's going to be. We should have done this probably 10, 15 years ago when it would have been cheaper. We should get the thing moving. It is perhaps unfortunate that we don't have the actual options of what we're going to do to vote tonight, but at least we will have an informed decision when this report is done. So I'm voting yes.
Mary Thayer, 179 Hockenham Road. I'm chair of the CPA committee. We have had quite a few conversations about this article and a lot of amazing work by the Russell Building Committee on looking at the building and what's needed and options. We did vote initially to go ahead asking for the 1.236 million. But there's a lot more too than just saying, yes, let's do this. If the vote were to go through with a yes, it has to be ready to be put out to bid. It has to have enough detail to go forward. And there was real concern that that wouldn't be a process that could be followed through on. We certainly want town meeting to be presented with enough information to give a really good decision. This feasibility study is by a company that looks at old buildings, loves old buildings, and will hopefully give the town not only what it costs to stabilize, but then what might we do with this building? Why is it worth stabilizing in terms of what the end result might be? And that's future discussions the town needs to have. But it's a lot of money to put into the building without knowing where we want to go from then, or even how to get there. So we're really hoping that this study, if it's approved tonight, and then done hopefully over the summer, can provide some of those answers so that more questions can be answered when the next application, whether CPA or other funds, comes forward to work on the building.
Name's Tony Fiden, Cold Spring Lane. I think a feasibility study sounds reasonable. I think what we're hearing a little bit is some skepticism because in the past, in Hadley, as some of the previous speakers have alluded to, we tend to leave buildings in disrepair until it's too expensive to repair them and then tear them down. And what we're hoping, what at least I'm hoping to avoid, is the same thing happening with the Russell School. It already may have reached that point. We've already heard that the building is too expensive to repair. Well, that's because we abandoned it. We didn't take care of it. And now we're in this situation. We've seen that with other buildings. So I'm hoping that this is not a continuation of that pattern, because it's really unfortunate. We've seen other buildings in this town that could have been saved that were not.
I'm Michael Sarzinski, 14 East Street Commons, formerly of 282 River Drive, North Hadley. From September 1960 to June 1963, I took a school bus from that address to Russell School. I attended 4th, 5th, and 6th grades. Mrs. Fleabut, Mrs. Reed, and the legendary Doris Logan were my teachers. To put that in perspective, no one had yet heard of the Beatles. The twist was the dance craze. Joe Zagrodnik was still in dental school. So, I mean, it's a long time ago. It's a long time ago. The place was in rough shape back then, and it's in obviously rougher shape now. For the heck of it, I Googled Russell School, Hadley, Massachusetts last week, and a report came up that was done 10 years ago. And if my totaling of the line items was correct at that point in time, in order to bring the building up to code, I'm not sure if that included seismic, it was going to cost $6.9 million 10 years ago. So, double it.
Diana West, 164 South Maple Street. I've heard skepticism in the audience tonight about this, and I would like us to move faster. We're not. So, if possible, I would encourage us to vote in favor of this, because I think that this is the next step to possibly doing more. And we need to do more, because otherwise it will be a pile of bricks. And it's important to our historic town center, and we need to vote in favor of this in the hopes that we can save the building, because if we don't, I think that might be it. Thank you.
Dan Regish, 16 Newton Lane, Russell School Committee. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you, Select Board, Finance Committee. I've been on this particular committee for about a year and a half, I guess, maybe 2 years. I've been on a municipal building committee for 9 years now. Some people would probably want to ask me, why would I throw myself in front of this bus? You know, it's because there's a lot of good in this town, and as you know, evidence of the survey that we put together, there's a lot of people who want to save the building. There are some skeptics, but there's overwhelming support, in my opinion, to preserve historic architecture in town. We've lost some. We don't need to lose this very unique building. And although I also don't agree with exactly how this article came about, I would encourage everyone to vote in favor of it.
Any other questions or comments concerning Article 18? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor of Article 18, please raise your blue cards. Thank you. You can put those down. Those opposed to Article 18? Motion passes 140 to 10. Article 19, move that the town transfer the sum of $50,000 from free cash to Capital Stabilization Fund. Is there a second? Second. Moved and seconded. Finance Committee, Chairman David Phil.
So in the past, we've had meals taxes to fund capital purchases. At some point in our history, those meals taxes went to the general fund or the general budget. And so over the past probably 8-9 years, Linda, is that probably 5 years? We've been borrowing within the levy to buy things like police cars and DPW trucks and things along those lines. So what this does is transfers some money from free cash to the Capital Stabilization Fund, and this is basically building a bank account so from the free cash that we had left over from last year's budget, so that way we can afford to buy some of these big purchases as they come down the line versus borrowing money and paying interest on those purchases. Obviously $50,000 is not a whole lot, but it's a start.
Any additional questions or comments on Article 19? Seeing none, move to a vote. All in favor, please raise your blue cards. Thank you. Those opposed, raise your blue cards. 149 to 1. Excuse me. Article 20, move the town appropriate $10,000 in free cash as an initial contribution to a special purpose compensated time fund under General Law, Chapter 44, Section 33B. Said fund to be used without further appropriation for the payment of unused vacation and sick leave time to which an employee is entitled under a previously established contract or town personnel policy. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded.
So this article will start a fund that will be used for payment to employees for unused vacation and sick leave established under their contract or the town's personnel policy upon completion of their employment. They're currently paid via the budget process, and by funding this article, it will eliminate the need to constantly have the various departments move their budget up and down to try to anticipate and compensate for any of these people that are, employees that are leaving and need to be paid for their unused vacation and sick leave.
Any other questions or comments concerning Article 20?
Edwin Matusko, 116 Stockbridge Street. This article is taking $10,000 from free cash. The previous article took $50,000 from free cash. Don't we have too much free cash?
Finance Committee?
We're lucky, Ed, we're lucky. May not happen again.
Former Chair, Amy.
Okay, I'll go down just a little bit and tell you about the free cash. All right, so in the past, we've been using, for many years, anticipated free cash. Now we're using actual certified free cash. Okay, we had the $1.4 million in free cash. That came from the meals and food tax because it skyrocketed after COVID, so that was about $800,000. We had about a leftover of $200,000, and then our regular free cash was about $400,000. It averages about $400,000 or $500,000 a year. Okay, so that's where where the 1.4 million came from. Now, in using that free cash, where we are is we're looking to use $860,000 in free cash to balance the budget this year. It's gone down. We're focusing on going down with that, and it's gone down from the $875,000, okay, from the previous year. We're looking to put 400 of that into the ambulance of free cash, 50,000 from for the capital, and 10,000 for the employee fund. It will leave us approximately about $178,000 in free cash. Hopefully, we can roll over for next year and add it to whatever we get back from free cash. So that is where we stand with the free cash. Hope that helps.
Edwin, did that answer your question? Kinda.
Sorry.
Are you?
Edwin Matusko, 116 Stockbridge Street. I still think we have too much free cash. Maybe we should think of lowering the taxes 1 or 2 pennies and not have as much free cash. That's an idea. But I really think that we have way too much.
Any other questions or comments concerning Article 20? Seeing none, all in favor of Article 20, please signify by raising your blue card. Thank you. You can put those down. Those opposed? 148 to 2. Article 21, motion that the town increase the rate of interest that accrues on property taxes deferred by eligible seniors under General Law, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 41A, from 4% to 8%, which such increase rate to apply to taxes assessed for any fiscal year beginning after July 1st, 2023. Article 21. Assessors. Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi, Dan Zdonek, the town's principal assessor. A little bit of background information on this. Clause 41A is a property tax deferral program for income-eligible seniors 65 years of age or older for their primary residence. The entire amount of their tax each year can be deferred up to 50% of the assessed value of the property. We currently have only one senior who takes advantage of this program. At the November 14, 2020 special town meeting, it was voted to reduce the interest rate charged on Clause 41A tax deferrals from 8% to 4%. The assessors proposed doing this because interest rates had fallen to near record low levels. In the last year, interest rates have climbed back up, and the assessors feel that we should go back to the state level of 8% simple interest on taxes deferred under Clause 41A. If approved, this rate increase will not take effect until fiscal year 2024, which starts on July 1st, 2023.
I just have a question, if you don't mind. I'm reading this, and I wasn't part of the conversation, so I apologize. 4% to 8%, who pays the 8%?
The 8% simple interest is paid by the taxpayer when the property is sold or the property is removed. So at this point right now, at 4% with higher interest rates, the town has to borrow, could potentially have to borrow money to run the general budget, and it would cost all the taxpayers money to fund the program. At 8%, it's back to where we're not making money on it, but we're not losing money for people who take advantage of it.
Okay, from my perspective, I wasn't clear who was paying. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you. Any other questions or comments concerning Article 21? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor of Article 21, please raise your blue cards. Thank you. You can put those down. Those opposed? Article 21, 148 to 2. We made it, folks. Last article. Thank you all, sincerely. Yes.
Make a motion to dispense with reading Article 22.
Second.
Okay, motioned and seconded. All in favor of dispensing the reading of Article 22, please raise your blue cards. Thank you. You can put those down. Those opposed, and you want it read, raise your blue card. Unanimous. We're not going to read it. All right. Article 22, move the town amend Section 3, Table of Uses, and Section I.B? 1.b, definitions of the zoning bylaws set forth in Article 23 of the warrant. Is there a second?
Second.
Motioned and seconded. Jim, just state your name and what committee.
Jim Maximowski, Planning Board Chairman. The Planning Board unanimously recommends acceptance of this article. Basically, what this article is, the Hadley zoning bylaws are written in what they call an exclusionary manner. Most of you probably have heard that before, but that basically means is if the bylaw doesn't say you can do it, it is a prohibited use. When the bylaws were written in 1961, food trucks probably may not have existed. I don't know. But anyways, there's nothing in the zoning bylaws about allowing food trucks. They are becoming more popular, and the planning board has put this article in to amend to allow the use of food trucks. Section 1B defines a food truck, and basically food trucks would be prohibited in the residential zone and allowed in all the other zones with a permit or a license, if you would, however they want to call it, issued by the Board of Selectmen. And I think Mr. Dwyer will simply explain where the residential zones are so people will understand, because most of the town, with exception of a very small area, is zoned everything else but that.
So, Bill Dwyer, Planning Board, and 388 River Drive. I think we have a map of the residential. I thought I just saw it there. Yeah. This is a small section. It's a historic, old subdivisions. Most of those lots are less than 20,000 square feet. It's all residential district. It's bounded by Mount Warner Road and Huntington Road. There's a little bit that bumps down closer to Rocky Hill Road. I'm not sure that is the completely accurate one, but the point is it's a small district, it's residential only, and we don't allow any other business uses in that district. So that's why it's excluded. Could we also go back just to the first slide in the set, because this is really a three-part article. So this is the first one. What you see there, that matrix across the bottom, is adding one line to what is about a 4-page table of permitted uses. And that's the format of what we have. So that's why it's it appears that way. And then, including see Note 6, and Note 6 is shown on the next panel, which just outlines that just because it's an allowed use doesn't mean it's permitted without further approval. Sometimes that it should go without saying, but it doesn't always. So the Select Board, the Board of Health, both have substantial authority to regulate food vendors, and they'll be exercising that. But this is just enabling them to take that up.
Any other questions or comments?
David Ryman, 10 Isabel Court. There was the PBS did their asparagus festival on the Common last few years, and they had food trucks there. Was it that we were kind of looking the other way when they had the food trucks, or we just now realized that they weren't actually allowed?
Probably a lot of both. That, like I said, it would be. It's not our intention to prohibit them. We are now trying to make it legal and make a method where they can be regulated. It's not so much to regulate just the food truck itself. Chief Spanking Abel can tell you about horror stories about primarily the ones that have propane on board that have blown up, not around here, thank God, but in other parts of the country that have been a disaster. And as well as sanitation and Board of Health and everything else and so on and so forth. So we're just trying to bring this and make this a cohesive, simple thing to get approved, and so that everybody is safe and doesn't get sick.
Any other questions or comments? I need to do a correction when I read the motion. I had read move the town amend Section 3, Table and Uses, Section 1B, definitions of the zoning bylaw set forth in Article 23. This is Article 22 of the warrant. So that is a correction I did want to put out there, but it does not have any impact on the warrant. Any other questions? Seeing none, move to a vote. All in favor, please raise your blue cards. Thank you. You can put those down. All those opposed? Passes unanimously. I'd like to thank Hadley Media and all of you. Bless you for coming. Oh, wait a minute. Hang on.
Sharon
hang on.
Parsons, 137 Mill Valley Road.
Yep.
Point of clarification.
Yes.
According to Robert's Rules of Order,
Yes.
we moved to put certain articles in a consent agenda. That was a motion that was made, seconded, and approved. According to Robert's Rules of Order, at the end of doing that, we should also have approved in one action all of those multiple items. I believe we did not do that.
We do go by town meeting
But
time, which
I
is
think
different
it's pretty
than
much
Robert's
the same.
rules.
Our motion was to move them to consent agenda.
The motion was made to approve the consent agenda.
Right. Then you have to approve those articles that you've moved into the consent agenda.
No, it was one lump. By doing the consent, we did one lump.
Okay, that's,
I'm
all right,
I'm
just wanted to
deferring
make sure that was clear, because I felt like we were just reading through those articles and never really voted yes on those articles.
Okay. I defer to town council on that. Thank each and every one of you for coming out. I was worried about a quorum. Thank you. Do I have a motion to dismiss? Is there a second? All right. All right. All in favor? Aye. All right. Passes.